Children, life is a river that never forgets its source. Some rivers are born from storms, some from tears. The river I speak of today flowed from the eyes of a girl called Ifeoma.
In the restless belly of Lagos, where the air smells of pepper soup, dust, and diesel, there lived a girl whose name meant good thing. But good things are not always treated kindly in this world. When Iheoma was only 14, death visited her home. First, it took her father, an honest carpenter whose laughter filled their small house in Suralere. Then, before the tears on his grave had dried, her mother followed, consumed by fever and grief. The world around her dimmed like a candle in the wind. After the burial, people whispered and argued. Who will take the child? They asked. Her mother's elder sister, Auntie Chica, stepped forward. With a false smile she said, I will take her. She is my sister's blood. I will raise her like my own. Ah! Words are easy to say when the sun is shining. But when night falls, we discover the true color of a person's heart. Auntie Chica's house stood at the edge of Mushin, tight, noisy, smelling of fried oil and sweat. She lived there with her husband, and 3 children who were as loud as the marketplace. At first, Iheoma tried to believe she was safe. But safety, my child, can be a mirage in the desert of the wicked. She slept on a thin mat in the corridor. She ate only when her cousins were done. And every day, before dawn, she scrubbed, washed, swept, and carried water till her small hands trembled. When she made a mistake, Auntie Chica's tongue was a whip sharper than cane. You think you are my equal, she would say. Your mother spoiled you before she died. But not here. Not under my roof. Iheoma would kneel, tears burning her cheeks, whispering apologies that never satisfied. Yet, every night, before she closed her eyes, she prayed. God, please, don't let me become bitter. There was a night, children. A night that changed everything. It was late, close to 11 o'clock. The streets outside were half asleep, and danger was already yawning awake. But in that small house, a quarrel rose from the parlor. Auntie Chica's youngest son, barely 9, began to cry, Mummy, I want biscuits. The boy refused to sleep without it. Auntie Chica turned to Iheoma, her eyes cold as harmattan wind. Go and buy biscuits for your cousin. Iheoma hesitated. Auntie, it's late, the shops may be closed. Before she could finish, a sharp sound split the air. A slap. The slap sent her face spinning. Did you just talk back at me? Auntie hissed. You will not return without biscuits, do you hear me? Ah, children, sometimes evil wears the face of family. That night, the girl obeyed, not out of respect, but out of fear. She stepped into the night barefooted. The air was heavy with smoke and danger. The first 2 shops she tried were closed. The third one had its lights half dimmed. By the time she found biscuits in a far-off street filled with nightclubs, it was past midnight. She turned back quickly, clutching the small nylon bag like treasure. But destiny had other plans waiting in the dark. 2 men stood by a corner. They watched her pass, slowly, silently. Then one of them whispered something foul, and they followed. Children, May your feet never meet the wrong eyes at night. What happened next, even the moon could not watch. They caught her by the wrist, dragged her behind an unpainted wall. And when she tried to scream, the night swallowed her voice. When their evil was done, they left her like broken glass on the ground. She lay still, her body trembling, her soul somewhere far away. They thought she was dead. But she lived. And when she woke, she dragged herself through the sleeping streets of Lagos. Blood and tears mixing on her legs. By the time she reached home, the sky had begun to pale with dawn. She knocked softly. Knocked again. The door opened. Auntie Chica stood there, eyes blazing. When she saw Iheoma, her torn dress, her swollen face, she did not ask what happened. Instead, she shouted, "Where did you go? Look at yourself. You think I'll harbor a prostitute in my house?" She pushed the girl back, threw her few belongings after her, and slammed the door so hard that even the morning birds fell silent. Iheoma sat by the doorstep till her tears ran dry. She whispered, "Auntie, please, let me explain." But no answer came, only the cold silence of betrayal. When the sun rose, Iheoma took her small bag, hugged it to her chest, and walked away from that house of cruelty. She did not know where her feet were going. Only that they must keep moving, or her heart would stop. She did not know where she was going. She just walked. Through streets that had forgotten mercy. Past gutters that smelled of old dreams. Until her legs could carry her no more. Then, there, at the edge of the city, she found an uncompleted building near the edge of town. Bare, lonely, half filled with dust and old blocks. There she lay her small body and slept. She wept until her tears turned to sleep, under broken concrete and a torn mosquito net she found in the corner. For many nights, that ruin became her home. By day, she went to the market to carry people's loads. Heavy baskets of pepper, gari, yams, sometimes cement. Her palms grew hard, her back bent, but her spirit refused to break. She ate little, slept little, and prayed much. And when the world passed by, she smiled quietly to herself, whispering the words her mother once told her. "Goodness is not weakness, my daughter. Keep it alive, even in darkness."
And so, children, this is how Iheoma began her second life. Not in a house, but in an uncompleted building. Not with family, but with faith. The world thought she was finished. But the story was just beginning. Because, my children, every time a tear drops from the eyes of the innocent, an angel records it in heaven's book. And one day, heaven will answer. Children. When the sun rose the next morning, it found Iheoma still lying in that uncompleted building. Her body ached. Her eyes swollen. Her spirit silent. But life, my children, has a way of whispering, "Get up." Even when the world says, "Stay down." And so, she rose. She washed her face with rainwater gathered in an old bucket. She looked around that empty building and said to herself, "This is my home now." But the story does not end here. For even the wind that blows ashes can one day carry seeds. And from those seeds, a tree of grace will grow. Rest your hearts, children. As the story continues, you will learn how Iheoma's pain gave birth to promise. How the world that rejected her became the world she rebuilt. For every scar has a story, and this one is only beginning. From that day, the girl who once had a roof and family became part of the street. During the day, she walked to the market, a sprawling sea of color and noise. She offered to help women carry loads, to pack peppers, sweep stalls, fetch water. At first, many ignored her. Some insulted her, thinking she was one of those idle street children. But she was not idle. Her hands were steady, and her heart determined. Slowly, a few women began to call her. "Come, small girl, help me carry this basket." And for every small coin she earned, she thanked God. She would buy a small loaf of bread, or a sachet of water, and return to her empty shelter before nightfall. When it rained, she pressed herself against the wall to stay dry. When she fell sick, she prayed and waited to recover on her own. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And then, something began to change. Iheoma began to wake each morning with nausea. Her body felt strange. Food no longer tasted the same. Sometimes she would vomit before leaving her shelter. At first, she thought it was malaria. But one day, as she bent near the well, a woman selling vegetables looked at her closely. "My daughter, you've been vomiting every morning. You sure you're not carrying something?" Iheoma frowned. "Carrying what?" The woman sighed. "Come with me tomorrow, we'll go to the chemist." And so they did. The next day, in a small roadside pharmacy, Iheoma peed on a small stick. The line turned red. The woman looked at her, then back at the test. "You are pregnant, my child." "Ah, my children." There are moments that silence is louder than thunder. Iheoma stood there, frozen. Her lips trembled. Her knees weak. She left that place and walked the whole market aimlessly, tears rolling down her cheeks. She wanted to scream, to ask heaven, "Why me?" But in her heart, she remembered something her mother once told her before she died. "If God allows pain, my daughter, it is because He knows you have strength enough to survive it." Those words became her lifeline. That night, sitting alone in her uncompleted house, she held her stomach and whispered, "I will not kill you. You did not ask to come. God gave you life through me, and I will protect you." From that night forward, she worked harder. She began to sell pure water in traffic, balancing the tray on her head, running between cars, shouting, "Pure water! Cold pure water!" The Lagos sun was merciless. The roads were noisy and dangerous. But she smiled through it. Every naira she made, she kept in a small tin box. When the wind blew dust into her face, she whispered, "It's for my baby." When her legs ached, she said again, "It's for my baby." And that, my children, is how faith looks. Not with fine clothes or long prayers, but with small steps and a stubborn heart. Yet, misfortune still followed her like a shadow. One afternoon, as she ran across a busy junction with her tray, a reckless driver brushed her side. She fell, her sachets of water spilling across the road. People shouted. The driver cursed and drove off. She sat on the ground, tears mixing with dust. The few sachets left were soaked, unsellable. Her money scattered. That night she went to bed hungry, hugging her stomach, whispering, "We will not die. God will not forget us." Weeks later, something happened that changed her story forever. She was at a traffic junction, selling as usual, when she heard someone call her name. "Iheoma. Iheoma." She froze. The voice sounded familiar. She turned around and saw a woman rushing toward her. It was Auntie Uju. her late mother's old friend. Chinik. Iheoma, is this really you? The woman hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes. I have been looking for you since I came back from Port Harcourt. When I heard your mother died, I searched everywhere. What happened, my daughter? And right there, by the roadside, with cars honking and sun blazing, Iheoma told her story. From the night her aunt threw her out, to the market, to the pregnancy. Auntie Uju listened, her eyes red. Come with me, she said finally. You will not stay one more night in that place. That evening, Iheoma entered a real home for the first time in months. Auntie Uju gave her warm water to bathe, food to eat, a clean bed to sleep on. When she woke the next morning, she cried, because it felt like heaven had finally remembered her name. Children. Sometimes help comes when we have stopped looking. Sometimes, God sends his angels in the form of ordinary people. Months passed. And one rainy morning, as thunder rolled softly in the distance, Iheoma gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. They named her Chioma, meaning good God. Because after all the storms, God was still good. And that, my children, was the day the street girl became a mother. The day sorrow gave birth to joy. Children. There is a saying from the elders. When God sends rain, even the cracked earth will drink. After years of pain, God sent rain into Iheoma's life. And that rain came through Auntie Uju. For the first time in years, Iheoma lived in a home that smelled of peace. Auntie Uju's house was small but full of kindness. The walls were painted light blue, and on the veranda hung little flower pots that swayed with the wind. Each morning, Auntie Uju would knock gently at her door. Iheoma, are you awake? Come and eat. Those simple words, come and eat, sounded like music to her ears. Because for so long, no one had spoken to her with love. And Chioma. Ah, that little child. She was beautiful like the morning sun. Her eyes sparkled like dew on cassava leaves. And when she smiled, even the tired walls of that house seemed to brighten. Auntie Uju adored her. She would carry Chioma on her lap, singing old lullabies her own mother once sang to her. Sleep, my baby, sleep. The angels keep you. The Lord will feed you. Those nights were filled with laughter again. The sound of spoons clinking against plates. The scent of pepper soup rising from the kitchen. It was as if joy had found its way back home. You see, children, sometimes all a wounded soul needs is one person who believes they are worth saving. Auntie Uju did not just feed Iheoma. She restored her dignity. She helped her take care of the baby so she can be strong again, took her to church, and encouraged her to dream again. After 6 months, when Iheoma regained her strength, Auntie Uju sat her down one afternoon. My daughter, she said, you have suffered enough. It's time to continue your education. Iheoma looked up in shock. Me? Go back to school? With a baby? Yes, Auntie Uju replied. Your life did not end that night. It only began a new chapter. And so it began. Auntie Uju registered her in a nearby secondary school. She arranged for a neighbor to help watch Chioma during school hours. In the evenings, Iheoma would come home, cook, and cradle her baby until both of them fell asleep. It was not easy, oh no. There were days she almost gave up. There were nights she cried quietly, asking God to give her strength to carry on. But Auntie Uju would always say, one step at a time, my daughter. Eagles learn to fly by trusting the wind. Years began to roll by. Iheoma grew into a young woman with quiet grace. She studied hard, often topping her class despite all odds. Teachers admired her. Classmates respected her. But few knew her full story. Only that she was that brilliant girl who always carries a baby to school events. Iheoma grew too. A lively little girl, always curious. Always smiling. She followed her mother to school sometimes. Sitting by the corner, watching the teachers write on the board. By the time Iheoma finished secondary school, she passed her exams in flying colors. Auntie Uju danced that day until her wrapper nearly loosened. "Ah, my daughter, you will go to university. The world must see what God can do." And indeed, God opened that door too. Through a church scholarship program, Iheoma gained admission to study economics at the University of Lagos. Life on campus was different. At first, she felt out of place. She had little, no fancy phone, no rich background. But what she had was wisdom born from pain. And a strength that made others respect her. She studied harder than most. Often burning midnight candles while Iheoma slept beside her. Auntie Uju continued to support them. Selling more in her small shop to help with books and food. For years passed like a slow sunrise. And on graduation day, Iheoma stood on that podium in her black gown, holding her certificate high. First class honors. The hall roared with applause. Tears streamed down Auntie Uju's face. Even Iheoma, now 6 years old, clapped excitedly from the front row, shouting, "That's my mummy." Ah, children. When the Lord decides to lift a person, He doesn't check their background. He checks their heart. From the gutter to the graduation hall. What a journey. And yet, the story was far from over. Because destiny had one more surprise waiting for Iheoma. After university, she served her country, the NYSC year. In a big company in Victoria Island. Everyone there admired her humility and brilliance. She was still the same simple girl who greeted the cleaner and the gate man. The same girl who never forgot to call Auntie Uju each night. But it was during this time that fate decided to test her heart again. Not with pain this time, but with love. One late evening after work, as she was walking home, she saw a young man being harassed by street boys near a bus stop. Without thinking twice, she shouted at them to stop and drew attention to the scene. The boys ran off, and she helped him up. He was bleeding slightly on his arm. She tore a piece from her handkerchief to tie it. He looked at her with deep gratitude. "Thank you. I don't even know your name." "Iheoma," she said, smiling. He smiled back. "I'm Emeka." And that was the beginning. They met again days later. Then again. Conversations grew like flowers after rain. He was gentle, respectful. And though he looked simple, there was something about him, quiet confidence, deep humility. They spent time talking about life, faith, and purpose. She told him about her daughter, about her past. She waited for him to pull away, but he didn't. Instead, he said, "You are stronger than most people I've ever met. What you've overcome, it's nothing short of grace." Later, she discovered he was no ordinary man. Emeka was the CEO of Rara Global Ltd. A company she had once dreamt of working for. But he never flaunted it. He treated her with honor. Visited Auntie Uju often. And grew close to little Iheoma, who soon called him Uncle Emeka. Years passed like a gentle breeze. Iheoma's life began to bloom fully. The street girl had become a woman of substance. Her baby had become her pride. And her faith had become her crown. Children, look at how God turns ashes into beauty. They called her worthless. But God called her chosen. They threw her away. But heaven picked her up. Now, her name was written in joy. My children, listen to me well. Sometimes, heaven delays, but it never forgets. When your tears reach the ground, they do not vanish, they grow roots. They grow until the day your miracle finds you. That was how the story of Iheoma began to turn. A girl abandoned in pain was about to rise, not by her power, but by grace. 2 years passed, and Iheoma, now 23, had built a quiet, strong life. Chioma was 6 years old, a lively girl who carried her mother's smile. One sunny afternoon, at a family picnic, Emeka went down on one knee and proposed. Tears filled her eyes as he said, "You taught me that broken people can still build beautiful things. Marry me." She said yes. Their wedding was like something from a dream. The hall was filled with laughter, music, and faces from across her journey: professors, market women, Aunt Uju at the front row beaming like the sun. During the reception, Iheoma saw a familiar face among the catering team, her mother's sister, Aunt Chika. The woman looked older, broken by life. The years had not been kind to her. When their eyes met, Aunt Chika froze, her tray trembling in her hands. Later, she came forward and fell to her knees, weeping. She said, "Forgive me, Iheoma. Since that night, nothing good has happened to me." For a long moment, the hall was silent. All eyes were on them. Then, slowly, Iheoma knelt and lifted her aunt up. Her voice was calm, steady. "Auntie, I forgave you long ago. Pain ends where forgiveness begins." And just like that, the story of bitterness turned into the story of mercy. After the wedding, Iheoma and Emeka settled into a peaceful life. They bought a home, not too grand, but full of warmth. Aunt Uju lived nearby, spending most evenings with Chioma, helping with homework, cooking her favorite vegetable soup. Emeka treated her like his own mother. He would often say, "Without you, there would be no us." Iheoma's new home became a place of laughter, a far cry from the lonely rooms of her past. But even in her joy, she did not forget the streets where she once slept. The Iheoma Foundation for Girls grew quickly. It began in a small rented office in Surulere, but soon expanded. They rescued street girls, pregnant teenagers, and orphans. They taught them skills, tailoring, catering, hairdressing, and offered small scholarships to go back to school. Every time Iheoma walked into the training hall and saw their faces, faces full of fear, hope, and confusion, she saw herself. She would tell them, "You are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become." Her voice became strength to others. News channels began to feature her. Churches invited her to speak. Her story spread like light breaking through the clouds. Years passed swiftly. Chioma grew into a bright young girl, lively, compassionate, and curious. She called Aunt Uju Grandma Uju. Every morning, before school, she would kneel beside her mother and pray, "Lord, thank you for my life and for giving me a strong mummy." When Iheoma heard those words, she often wept quietly. Because that simple prayer was proof that pain can give birth to beauty. Emeka, too, continued to prosper. His company, Rara Global Limited, expanded across Africa. But he remained humble, always using his success to lift others. Together, they built schools, health centers, and scholarships for single mothers. The city that once ignored Iheoma's cries now sang her name with honor. But life, my children, is a mixture of sweet and bitter. One cannot drink only honey without tasting salt. One evening, Aunt Uju fell ill. At first, it was just fatigue. Then the doctors discovered a failing heart. Iheoma rushed her to the hospital. She stayed by her bedside day and night, feeding her, reading her favorite psalms. Aunt Uju smiled weakly and said, "My child, don't cry. You have already repaid me 1,000 times." Iheoma wept. "No, Mama Uju, I have not done enough. You gave me life again." Aunt Uju's eyes glistened. "You are my harvest, Iheoma. You are my testimony." 3 weeks later, she passed quietly in her sleep. The pain of losing her was deep, but this time, Iheoma had learned that death does not end love. it only passes the torch to the living. She buried her with honor, built a small school wing in her memory, and named it the Uju Center for Hope. 2 years later, while returning from a foundation event, Iheoma was caught in a heavy storm along the Lekki Expressway. Their car skidded and hit the divider. She survived with minor injuries, but it left her shaken, a reminder that life is fragile. That night, as thunder rolled over the city, she knelt beside her bed and whispered, "Lord, every breath you give me, I will use for others. I am yours, fully." From that moment, her mission deepened. She turned the foundation into a national movement. They partnered with government agencies to protect girls from abuse. They built a safe home for street mothers. People began calling her Mama Grace. But she always smiled and said, "Just call me Iheoma, the girl Grace found." By the time Iheoma turned 16, she had her mother's same fierce heart. She was brilliant in school, always top of her class, but more than that, she was kind. She once told her mother, "Mummy, one day, I will help children like you do." And Iheoma would smile softly, remembering the night she had once been that same age, lost, broken, walking barefoot through Lagos streets. History had come full circle. The curse had broken. Grace had rewritten the story. One afternoon, while organizing donations, a frail old woman came to the foundation gate. Her clothes were torn, her eyes hollow. When Iheoma saw her, she froze. It was Aunt Chika again. Years of hardship had reduced her to a shadow of her former self. She had come to ask if they could help her daughter, one of Iheoma's cousins, who had fallen into drug abuse. For a moment, old memories flashed, the slap, the insults, the cold door slammed in her face. But then, Grace whispered again. She embraced her aunt and said, "You helped me know pain, Auntie. But pain taught me to love. We will help your daughter." Tears fell down the old woman's cheeks. That day, Iheoma not only saved her cousin, she healed a family wound that had lasted for decades. Years rolled by. Iheoma graduated with honors, studied international relations, and became an advocate for child rights. She joined her mother's foundation, adding new energy and technology to their work. Together, mother and daughter became a symbol of resilience, 2 generations bound by faith, compassion, and purpose. They traveled across Africa, speaking to girls in schools, visiting orphanages, and telling the same message. You are never too broken to rise again. Years later, when Iheoma turned 50, a grand celebration was held in her honor. The hall was filled with women she had once helped, now grown, successful, some with families of their own. They came bearing gifts, stories, and tears of gratitude. One of them said on stage, "Because of you, Mama Grace, I found my voice. You taught me that no matter how dark the night, morning must come." As she stood there, surrounded by love, Iheoma looked up quietly and whispered, "Thank you, God, for turning my tears into testimonies. My children. What is grace, if not the hand of God lifting the fallen?" Iheoma's story reminds us that suffering is not the end, it is sometimes the beginning of destiny. That forgiveness is the key that unlocks blessings. And that one woman's choice to hold on to life can birth a legacy that outlives her name. So when life breaks you, remember her. When the world calls you useless, remember her. When it feels like all doors are shut, remember the girl who once walked barefoot through darkness, and rose to light the path for others.
Because in the end, my children, grace always wins.
My children, that is the story of Iheoma, the girl they threw away, the girl whom grace found, lifted, and crowned. You see, in this life, when people turn their backs on you, do not lose faith. The same God that lifted Iheoma from dust to destiny, will never forget you. Sometimes, rejection is the door through which purpose enters. So wherever you are tonight, remember, your pain can become the seed of your greatness. Just hold on, pray, and trust God's timing. If this story touched your heart, my dear ones, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Echoes of Mama Nwaolu, where stories live. heal, and teach. Please like, share, and comment below. Tell me what lesson you learned from Iheoma's journey. Let us keep these stories alive, so that they may continue to echo through generations. Till we meet again under the moonlight. I am Mama Nwaolu, and this, my children, is where the echoes never die.